Just a second, please. All right, here we are. Here we are. Hello, hello, my dear friends. Happy Christmas Eve or happy Christmas. Happy holidays in general. I hope that you guys are doing great. It's been a while. And I gotta share a small story. Actually, I wanted to stream yesterday night, and also I had something to announce regarding the car for Ukraine and everything else. At night, I went to the gas station to buy milk and ice cream because everything was closed. I freaking stuck at the gas station for several hours. My car battery died because I don't ride much and it's cold, and it freaking died. I waited several hours until several German / Turkish / Armenian kind people showed up and charged my car, and I started and everything was fine. So it's really nice to see. Ellie, why don't you sleep so late? Oh my god, go to bed please. I'm scared for you, my friend, but it's really nice to see you, and also everybody else, Maurice and Supple Knife and Matt and everybody, Newman, Betsy, hello, oh my god, so many people I love and appreciate. So today we will talk about Christmas. It will be a relaxed chat. We will check out the recent updates because something bad is also mixed with something good usually, in the news, and we have a lot of very interesting updates. Hello, Carlito. Nice to see you too. Let's talk about the biggest ones. All right, there's three. First of all, the Ukraine's peace plan was announced by President Zelensky recently. I wanted to talk about that because Adam, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to Australia as well. I wanted to talk about this peace plan first. There's 20 points, of course, not like 5, not like 8. There's 20 points, and it's important. Also, the Russian general died. He became better person. Of course, we will celebrate it as well. And third thing, if you like, we can discuss that Epstein gate, because shit is absolutely crazy. I'm just checking, file after file. Turns out there's hundreds of files that you can read easily despite redacted text. And the most interesting thing is what exactly is redacted there. Like, if you think it's names of witnesses and yada, not really. But car battery booster is a good idea. I don't have it, unfortunately. Maybe sometime when I'm rich, I will get one. But generally, I just gotta buy a new car battery because I'm using that one since 2022, actually. And I didn't change it. So let's jump straight into the news, all right? Where were we? There we are. Let's check this one out. I will translate for you, as always. So President Zelensky, President of Ukraine, announced 20 points of a proposed peace plan. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this one because it was announced really like several hours ago. First of all, confirmation of Ukraine's sovereignty, all right? Which means that Ukraine's territory will keep officially being recognized as Ukraine's territory. Speaking of occupied territories as well, speaking of Crimea, everything, all right? Because there's international borders, and we gotta respect this. Betsy, thank you, I am fine. Just coughing just a bit, but not in the coffin yet. So, second one, an agreement of Russia not attacking Ukraine Also, Ukraine not attacking Russia. How funny is that? And also monitoring at the front line. All right. And monitoring includes, of course, international peacekeepers, international monitoring missions. And 3 is security guarantee. Guys, well, I will be criticizing this as well because yes, I can see that President Zelensky, while compiling this list of suggestions, all right, this peace plan, I can see that he is, let's say, sacrificing a lot in terms of Ukrainian national interests. Why am I saying that? Because, let's be honest, Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine is not obliged to just give up Ukrainian territory. Ukraine is not obliged to give Russian terrorists what they need. The only reason we are sacrificing our national dignity, let's say, right, is because we don't want Ukrainian people to be killed. And that's it. That's literally the only reason why we can read things like security guarantees, Ukraine will not attack Russia and things like that. That's the only reason. There's also a point saying that Russia will keep control of the occupied territories. They will be considered frozen. Yes, but the only reason we are sacrificing our national position is because Russian terrorists are killing Ukrainian people, all right? So I can criticize it. I can also understand this. Let's check what is next. The amount of armed forces of Ukraine, the personnel, 800,000 men in the peaceful time. Russia demanded Ukraine to have only 50,000 troops, all right, in order to have peace, in order, But the question is, if Russia promises not to invade you, then why would it demand you to shrink your army? Okay, it's kind of so obvious, so it's funny. Then United States, NATO, and Europe will provide Ukraine with security guarantees mirroring the Article 5. If Russia invades Ukraine, there will be a military response and sanctions will be restored. I will also criticize this one, but not towards President Zelensky, most probably towards other countries, because I don't really see other countries doing that, despite all the support and despite all the aid and rooting for Ukraine and everything else. But I don't really see other countries being prepared to actually respond militarily against Russia in case Russia invades again. And for example, I don't really see countries like Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, Finland, countries that I love so much, but I don't really see them involved in the military response against Russia. Guys, I am not trying to, degrade anyone or anything like that. Let's just be realistic, all right? They don't have enough personnel. They can only conduct some local operations as far as their resources allow them to, all right? So I don't see that happening. And also, point number 6, Russia will закріпити політику, трясся твої матері. I don't know how to translate this one. So Russia will stick to the policy of not attacking Europe and Ukraine in all the necessary laws. All right, so let's talk a bit about this one, because we know that there are a lot of laws and agreements made by Russia and with Russia, all right? Budapest Memorandum, fuck Budapest Memorandum. 2003 agreement signed by Putin himself with former Ukrainian President Kuchma, a fucking asshole as well. But they signed a contract. They signed an agreement of recognizing territories. So basically, Ukraine said, "Yeah, Russian territories. Yeah, we recognize them, of course." And Russia said, yes, we recognize Ukrainian borders, Ukrainian territories as well. We recognize Crimea as part of Ukraine. We recognize Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donbass as part of Ukraine. It was made literally, what was it, 2003. So it was basically 22 years old. Years ago, yeah. It was only 22 years ago when Putin was still president of Russia. So he signed this agreement himself, and we can see how initially he was saying that no, whatever is happening inside Ukraine is Ukrainian stuff. We're not interfering. And then eventually, he started saying that no, actually, Russia considers Crimea a natively Russian land and stuff like that, and Donbass, and there's so many nice people in Ukraine who want to be Russians. So instead of accepting them into Russia, we will accept their Ukrainian territory as part of Russia. So it's like that, guys. A lot of people. Let me just mark these comments real quick. A lot of people, for example, on the West, like those talking heads protecting Russian terrorism in Ukraine, all sorts of fans of the Russian terrorism. They're saying that. There's a bunch of people in Ukraine who wants to be Russians, so Russia has right to have their territory. No, Russia has rights to have those people, but going voluntarily to Russia, right? Buying tickets, getting their families, and GTFOing to the terror Russian land and becoming Russians as much as they like. But the territory is something that is not easily moved. It's protected by the international law and by United Nations and all that stuff. Joe, hello, my friend. So let's continue. Guys, we have several commentaries that I wanted to address. All right, let's start with this one. Finland has 1 million soldiers, the second biggest artillery in Europe and Russia, 64 F-18s, 64 F-35s, largest ammo stockpile in Europe, drone teams, domestic drones, Steel Eagle, JASM. Yeah, I completely agree on that. And I agree that Finland, by the way, was one of the few countries that actually kicked Russia's butt back in the days, and we know that Finnish people are absolutely legendary. I'm not saying that they cannot do anything, all right? But let's be honest, do you see Finnish government actually confirming that, yeah, sure, if Ukraine is attacked one more time, we will just, get all in. No, I don't see that. I'm just realistic, right? I hate this. I don't want other countries to suffer because of Ukraine. As a Ukrainian, I don't really like that to happen, of course. But at the same time, I don't see this happening. I don't see other countries agreeing to provide Ukraine with security guarantees like fifth article, And the craziest thing about this, my friends, as much as I hate this and as much as I don't want other countries to suffer because of Ukraine, but reality is it's not because of Ukraine, it's because of Russia, right? And Russia is waging its hybrid warfare against you guys for many years, and it will continue doing that. We are only strong when we stick together, and we have very, very strong collective security overall, right? So that's the only thing that can save us from the combined Russia, Chinese, Iranian, North Korean terrorism. That's the only thing. So that's my opinion. And another one is there. Kiev Independent translated it like this: Russia will formalize its not aggression stance towards Europe and Ukraine in all necessary laws and documents, ratifying them by Russia's State Duma. Yes, that's the correct translation of that. And that means that Russia will be kinda asked to ratify their laws, change their military doctrine and stuff like that, which, again, let's be honest, I don't see happening because it doesn't correspond to Russia's geopolitical interests and Russia's strategy. What are the Russian geopolitical interests? What they really are? Let me grab a drink real quick. Sword of Wisdom. Hello, my friend. Hello, my friend. It's been a while. So what are their strategic interests? I think you can already tell me that yourself. You don't even have to watch Solovyov, read Medvedev, or enjoy Dugin's publications in Russian far-right media. Russia's main geopolitical interests are establishing control over Europe, returning the post-Soviet territories back into the terror Russian cradle, either establishing them as puppet states or literally joining them, because that's exactly what Russia wants to do. It's not limited to Donbass, all right? Russia's geopolitical interests are extending way beyond Ukraine's borders. That's something that you should understand. They reach as far as Eastern Germany and beyond. It's a fact, all right? So that's something that we should remember. And again, Russia, considering that it keeps repeating over and over again through its paid talking heads that we will be talking about in just a while, that Russia is not your enemy, Russia is a friend, all right, and involving individuals like Tucker Carlson and yada yada. But despite all that, the only reason they do that is because Russia is an empire, and empire doesn't tolerate any freedom of speech, any democracy, as you can tell probably from the history, and Russia is exactly the case. So let's continue, all right? Greetings to beautiful Cambodia, by the way. Thank you so much. Let's continue with our small review. Simon, Ukraine becomes member of the EU in a specific defined time, all right? So apparently we are trying to make sure that we have a specific date noted, and on this date we will become a member of the European Union. Number 8, the global development package that will be defined in the separate agreements regarding the investments to Ukraine. I can understand that, all right? It's a completely different topic. I don't really understand why it's part of the peace plan, but anyways. Number 9, there will be several foundations made that will be... now I understand why. So, several foundations will be established to solve the restoration issues, all right? Restoration and repair. And the main goal is to involve $800 million of investments in Ukraine. So maybe they are saying that they will be discussing the possibility of Russia paying reparations, of course, and also using the frozen Russian assets to restore Ukraine, which I think is completely justified. Russia owes Ukraine a lot. Russian children and great-grandchildren will be paying Ukraine reparations. It's a fact, all right? Number 10, Ukraine will accelerate the process of signing the free trade agreement with the United States. Number 11, non-nuclear status of Ukraine. Again, I think that we talked about this already. I don't know why they're mentioning this one more time, but Ukraine confirmed that it wants to be a non-nuclear country in 1994 with the Budapest Memorandum, so I don't really understand why. Maybe they just want to sign some new version of that. I don't really understand this one. Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So there is no concession, all right? United States are proposing to control the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant equally, which means that the nuclear power plant will be controlled by Russian invaders who captured this nuclear power plant, by Ukraine, and also United States will be the main manager. So Ukraine offers that this nuclear power plant to be controlled 50-50 by United States and Ukraine, which I agree. If there's no Russians there, I completely agree. Number 13, the educational programs in schools that would benefit understanding and tolerancy to different cultures and remove racism and things like that. So this one is very interesting because, first of all, Ukraine existed for 3 decades as a free state after the USSR collapsed, and many hundred years before that, having all sorts of national minorities and races on its territory. Ukrainians and Jewish people lived shoulder to shoulder together with Crimean Tatars. Later than 19th century at least, all right, and before that many times. So Ukrainians, Jewish, Crimean Tatars, Muslim population of Ukraine, we always lived fine, all right? Even Russian nationals on Ukrainian territory, they felt like home easily, all right? And they only started talking about, we were actually repressed, in Ukraine all this time, after Putin started implanting those viruses, all right, in their heads. Through the Russian media, producing tons of fakes and things like that. So, of course, we don't have such problems with other national minorities or racial minorities or religious groups in Ukraine, as in Russia, for example, where you have a lot of people from Dagestan, from Chechnya, from other countries, and they have some of the strongest white power skinheads movements in the Eastern Europe, if not the strongest one, all right? So I can see why President Zelensky is offering this one. First of all, Russians are saying that they want to denazify Ukraine, right? Because according to the Russian fascists, Ukraine is ruled by Nazi regime of Jewish President Zelensky, Muslim former Minister of Defense, and yada yada. But he wants to nullify all that bullshit coming from Russians, which again I think is a great idea. On the other hand, it would be really interesting to demand the same shit from that, because as of 2022 there were hundreds of Russia-speaking schools on Ukrainian territory. How do you think, how many Ukrainian schools are there on the Russian territory? I will give you like 10 seconds to give me the answer in the chat. How many of Ukrainian schools are there on the Russian territory, given the amount of Ukrainians either living or snatched to the Russian territory? How do you think? So if your answer is 0, you are absolutely correct. You won the jackpot, but unfortunately I cannot share the jackpot with so many people, so just enjoy the knowledge. Yes, there are 0 Ukrainian schools on the Russian territory. So who is the fascist here? That's a different question. Let's return to our list. Number 14, the territories, which is of course the most difficult topic, because one of the variants proposed is that Russia is withdrawing from Dnipro, Mykolaiv, Sumy, Kharkiv regions, and in Donetsk and Luhansk, Zaporizhia and Kherson, we are, quote, stand where we stand, all right? Again, Ukraine will not recognize those territories as Russia's territories. Russians, let me remind you, are demanding from the international community and from Ukraine to recognize those territories as de facto and de jure Russian territories. Which again, so funny because factards like Dave Smith, for example, they convince his viewers all the time that Russia was just protecting itself by defending from evil NATO, by defending from fascist Ukrainians invading this tiny peaceful Russian country, all right, tiniest country on the map. And turns out that Russians actually openly say, yeah, we just wanted Ukrainian territories, just that. So it's a complicated topic here because, of course, we have to be realistic, all right? Russia is not gaining gazillions of square kilometers on a daily basis. It struggles to get hundreds of square meters, sacrificing thousands of Russian personnel on a daily basis, all right? Sometimes thousands, mostly hundreds, but we are talking about around 1,000 Russians getting improved on a daily basis on the Ukrainian soil and beyond. So Russia is struggling big time. Of course, given the fact that Ukraine is not competing with Russia economically or militarily, it's a complete bullshit because Russia is a freaking huge, powerful country. That is why United States were anxious, all right, about Russia so much. So Ukraine is fighting against a fucking huge enemy, all right, a fucking huge invader that attacked us almost 4 years ago. We must understand this, and of course it's very, very hard to expect some significant Ukrainian gains. It all depends on the territory, it all depends on the situation, it depends on Russian units we are facing in the different spans of the front lines, and that is why we won't see front lines changing that much. Additionally to this information, my friends, Ukraine and Russia are fighting the war of attrition, where actually square meters or square kilometers of territory are not significant, all right? We are talking about economical devastation of our opponent. We are talking about economical, military devastation of our opponent, social devastation, and things like that. War of attrition is a bit different than war for territory solely, right? It's a different topic. So Ukraine is fighting the war of attrition against the terror Russia at this point, and that is why slight shifts of the territory, they don't really matter. They are important. They are important because eventually they can lead to some very much unpredicted, or rather predicted results in terms of operational level, let's say. But Ukraine is fighting the war of attrition, and if we keep fighting the way we do, not trying to compete with Russia, like in terms of tanks, in terms of personnel, but trying to wage the asymmetrical warfare using our drones to destroy specific, very, very painful Russian targets, of course, we will be extremely successful. So I was saying all that because we are talking about standing where we're standing. And I can understand this completely. So again, I don't really see Russia agreeing to that. On the other hand, Putin needs some kind of victory to show, to present to his slaves in the terror Russia. And I don't know, most probably he can agree to this as, his minimum goal. All right, that's just my opinion. But it's highly, highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. So, according to what we know, Russia wants Ukraine to exit completely from the Donetsk Oblast. United States are proposing a compromise, which is a free economic zone. And if there will be no agreement on we're standing where we're standing, then the free economic zone can be accepted only via referenda in Ukraine. And then the whole agreement should be delivered to the Ukrainian society for this referendum. So, point number 15, Russia and Ukraine oblige not to change the agreement by force. Again, guys, comparing Ukraine and Russia in terms of military potential and everything else, I'm not saying about resilience, but I'm saying about military potential, economical potential. It's like, I don't know, comparing how not to what was his name? Like Russian boxer Povetkin and Vitaly Klitschko, right? Like comparing those two. It's a different thing. But at the same time, Russia has much more opportunity, capacity, and willpower to attack Ukraine. So I don't see how this agreement is even made. You don't trust Russian terrorists, my friends. You just don't. Like, they violated everything. They violated whatever they could only violate, all right? But on the other hand, again, I can understand why we're talking about those. Russia, according to point number 16, Russia will not be interfering with Ukraine using the Dnipro River and Black Sea to perform its commercial activities, and Kingsburg Strait, it's not like island, it's like this long island, will be also demilitarized. Number 17, exchange of POWs, all for all, and Russians will also return civilians, children, and political prisoners. And this is again, I don't really see Russia agreeing to that. How can they return the kidnapped Ukrainian kids? 20,000 children that were kidnapped by Russian invaders, brought to the Russian territory, to the Russian military camps for kids, where they're being indoctrinated, also already fucking adopted by Russian terrorists. There are websites where you can see Ukrainian children literally offered for adoption, all right, by the Russian families, even considering the fact that they might have still relatives and even parents on the Ukraine-controlled territory. There is this Maria Lvova Belova, the Russian, the Putin's advisor in terms of children agenda and everything else, one that was responsible, all right, for kidnapping those Ukrainian kids and bringing them to the Russian territory. And she's the second person besides Putin who is wanted by the criminal court in The Hague. So she adopted a Ukrainian kid. There's plenty of interviews with her bragging that at first the kid was like, you know, he hated her for that. Like, I can see why, because she literally took him from Ukraine forcibly, all right, to the Russian territory. Combat Veteran News Report replied to my comment. Oh my God, I'll read that later. So she kidnapped this kid and brought him to the Russian territory. Of course, he hated her. And she basically brags about changing his firmware, you know, brainwashing him into liking Russia, liking her, and everything else. Literally, she took a Ukrainian child and brainwashed him forcibly. That's fucking insane, and I don't see that happening. Russia will never agree to return Ukrainian kids back to Ukraine after that. I guarantee, considering, you know, this this Putin's fucking exotic relations with kids. What else? What else do we have? Let's close this list real quick. So after the exchange of prisoners and civilians and kids kidnapped by Russians, also Ukraine will perform presidential elections as soon as possible after signing this agreement, which again I can see happening. Everybody wants Ukrainian constitution to be respected, right? Which says that we cannot have presidential elections during the wartime. And also this agreement will be okay, let me rephrase it, because again I'm lacking English skills. All the signatories, all right, of this agreement will have to follow it, will be obliged to follow it from the standpoint of legislation and from the legal standpoint. And the council, the Peace Council, so-called, chiefed by Trump, will be controlling this process. We will talk about the Chief Council. Frankly speaking, I don't. Oh my God, I'm drooling looking at this ice cream because there is a different topic that I want to discuss. But so Trump will be controlling this agreement to be respected from the standpoint of law. We will see, all right, because who knows? Maybe he will find himself doing something different, all right, in the nearest future after the Epstein leaks. But number 10, after signing this deal, all right, after all the parties agree to this agreement and sign it, the full-scale ceasefire becomes active. So those are 20 points of President Zelensky's peace deal. I can already tell one more time why Russians won't sign this one. There's a lot of points that they won't agree to. And there's also several points that, for example, Trump's administration pushed Ukraine like Give up like half of your fucking country, you know. Like just fucking go. All right. No, unfortunately it doesn't work like that. Fucking stop fighting and fucking just die, you stupid Ukrainians, you know. So it doesn't work like that. This list, again, I can see President Zelensky and all the advisors working on this list and trying to, like, you know, find proper phraseology to compile this suggested plan. You know, to not openly say President Trump Putin, like, F you, all right? Fuck your suggestions, they are fucking ridiculous. No. So they try to, like, find proper phraseology to explain it in a proper way, which is a proper thing, you know, in terms of communications. I can tell you that. Yeah, I can tell you that it works. So, am I crazy, or do you believe Zelensky is only doing those peace talks to show the US that Russia do not want to end this war? For me, it's so clear Putin will not make peace. We know that. We know that. And again, like, if you want peace, you don't invade, all right? Russia's strategy doesn't include peace in Ukraine. Russia's strategy includes Ukraine devastated. Russia's strategy involves Ukraine completely freaking destroyed and non-existent, and Ukrainian people assimilated as part of Russia, like they did to tens of other different nationalities, Siberian minorities and everything else. That's Russian strategy. You don't just change your strategy over time. You don't do that. You build your strategy, you develop it, you involve a lot of people, a lot of experts, a lot of military, a lot of different politicians and diplomats. And then when you have the strategy, you implement it, you follow it through the decades. It's not like Russia, you know, they decided to invade Ukraine because they were just, oh, let's drink vodka and then invade, all right, and they will just give up. No, they planned this. Actually, they were planning that for years. They invaded Ukraine because Ukraine is just a step towards Russia's further expansion westwards. And Ukraine is not the main goal for Russia, all right? Ukraine is just a step. Ukraine is just one of the phases of Russia's strategy. We gotta understand, like, the broader picture, all right? There is strategy. There's always strategies. If we're talking about countries, especially such huge and ambitious and atrocious as Russia, there's always strategy. And it's not like this country is ruled only by Putin, by his, you know, overnight decision. Today, I think that we'll dig a river here, a riverbed, and tomorrow we will dig it. No, they are working according to their strategy, even if it fails. So there is no way Putin stops fighting, because there were not a single ceasefire, even among those ridiculous ceasefires that Putin talks about. This year, for example, we will have like an Easter ceasefire, right? Which resulted in hundreds of Russian drones striking Kharkiv and Sumy. None of them worked. It's absolutely obvious that Putin doesn't want that. But Trump makes it look so that Ukraine doesn't want war, because Ukrainians are absolutely fucking happy from being invaded and finally have a chance to fight, all right? Ukrainians just fucking, they dreamt about it, all right? Ukrainians did everything, you know, to be able to finally fucking go to the front lines. No, we're doing that because we want to survive. That's the only reason. So we are forced. So That was the plan. That was the big one, I think, because yes, Epstein Gate. We will talk about this. Oh my God, so many people are writing. Angela, if you are watching this, Merry Christmas to you too. Much love to the beautiful Bangkok. My ice cream is leaking, my friends. So let's just jump to the second biggest news, all right? Because it took place literally several, today's 24th, just the day before yesterday. And again, because I stuck at the freaking gas station, we were not really able to talk about this one. So Russian General Fanil Sarvarov. Fanil is like a really orthodox Arabic Russian name, all right? Russian General Fanil Sarvarov was turned into a better Russian on 22nd of December in Moscow city. That is what's left of his car. Actually, I didn't really see much people talking about this in the updates, besides UATV, by the way. Please check that one out. So, long story short, he got freaking deatomized. All right, not instantly, of course. He became a fertilizer in the ambulance on his way. On his way to the other side. Oh my God. Yeah. This dude was responsible for the operative training of the terrorist forces and toilet snatchers of the terrorist federation. He was a pretty big dude, all right? And with that, my dear friends, I beg my pardon, but I literally I have to do this because, oh my God, it's melting. And just so you know, it's a Ukrainian ice cream. We call it plombir. Doesn't taste much like plombir, like the one I remember, but these like waffle cups, all right? They just taste so amazing, you know, when they're moist. Oh my God. So, this dude, as you probably remember or heard, he became the third Russian general, third Russian general de-Russified over the past year, because exactly 1 year before that, Russian general, I think Kirillov, was it Kirillov or was it Moskalik? I think it was Kirillov. He met his doom, all right, during his deadly encounter with the scooter, or was it Moskalik? I think it was Kirillov. Those electric scooters, my friends, they are savage, all right? Like, you cannot trust them. They're deadly. Stay away from them, my friends. They're really bad. Thank you, my dear Jilke. I am absolutely enjoying this one. Like, this is actually the last ice cream I have because, you know, I like watching Russians getting deatomized. Sometimes our guys publish a lot of videos with some absolutely ridiculous music, so I enjoy it very much with my ice cream. That is why this one is the last one, and I kept it for today. If we'd stopped referring to Rumpty Dumpty, none of this would have happened. Oh, whatever. I refer to him as Trump Putin. Sounds like sounds more poetic than Krasnov, right? Trump Putin. And I don't give a damn, because like I could understand people's opinions and everything else before Epstein leaks. After Epstein leaks, if they keep supporting him. On the other hand, you know, even like Charles Manson had a lot of fans, all right? He had a huge fan base in the United States. I think one of his fans even became pregnant from Charles Manson. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, strange things happen. The world is full of different people. I will just continue enjoying, my friends. Sorry for torturing you. Again, I think that you have a much better table than me today, because I'm celebrating alone. My lady is not here, unfortunately. She will only return after a while. So I feel abandoned for a while, and also the Christmas table, all right, in our place, while I'm here alone temporarily, consists of chuvapi and French fries and ice cream. And I already finished the Coca-Cola. I have some chips, and that's the way I will enjoy today. I won't regret it at all. Here's to more ice cream. Yeah, thank you so much. So, my friends, while I'm finishing this one, remembering the poor degenerate Sarvarov, tell me, how did you celebrate your... How are you going to celebrate your Christmas? If you're going to go somewhere or just stay home? Newman, like, yeah, that's the harsh reality. Can we see your Christmas tree? My friend, you caught me, seriously. Like, I don't really have it. Like, when I was a kid, all right, father, for example, would always bring like this huge Christmas tree and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I enjoyed it, but already back then, I realized that it was alive, all right, and it was chopped just because of some, human holiday, and then it was just thrown away. What the fuck? It's a living being, it's a tree. So later, around 2008, when I already lived myself, I bought a fake Christmas tree that looked very, very much like the real one. But guys, since I'm in Germany, I couldn't even think about bringing a fake Christmas tree in the car all the way here. So I don't have it. In Hostomel, when I lived in Hostomel for a while, 2023, you probably remember, I had a living tree and I would just decorate it, and it was just in the yard and I was happy. So yeah. Buy a plastic tree, be a man. Oh my god. Well, again, everything's closed. Right. The stores will not work until Friday. Will they open on Friday, though? I don't know. It wasn't me, supports me. No Christmas tree here either. Yeah. Let them live. Like, if you have a yard and you have a Christmas tree growing there, you are a lucky person. Personally, that is something that I would prefer, a yard with a Christmas tree. I don't care about plants. I'm not a plant lover. Though my lady asked me to water the plants like 2 weeks ago. Don't tell her, okay? Because she won't be happy. Shit, I have to write this down. Oh my god, water the... Oh my god. Water the fucking plants. I hope she's not watching, because I'm dead. So I will water the plants. Yeah, I was talking about the Christmas tree. I'm not a big fan of onion, flowers, pears, peaches, trees, bushes. Like I'm not I don't care, right? If it's wild, I'm fine. If it's just grass, I don't care. If it's mud, something will grow on it anyways. But if there is a Christmas tree, that's a bonus because you can use it to decorate it every Christmas, every New Year as well, and enjoy. And it will live, it will grow, and maybe even after you die, your grandkids will be celebrating under this Christmas tree, hanging your portrait on it, and things like that. The Christmas tree named after Andrei Kulish, operator Starsky, and like my smiley face on it. That would be cool. I gotta confess, I grew beard because I didn't shave since 3rd of December, around that time. 5th, 6th of December. Yeah, because I wanted to look a bit more like Santa Claus, but unfortunately makes me look more like a porch pirate at best. Sucks. Gotta shave. Okay, guys, let's check out some more updates because we have them, all right? We have some crazy footage from the front lines. Freaking fire was burning on the Russian territory yesterday at the Russian Budyonovsky in Stavrolian because good Ukrainian drones brought joy and fireworks to the Russian terrorists living there. Stavrolian is a freaking huge chemical plant on the Russian territory. Of course, it produces different stuff like explosives, and it's a big joy to see it like this, because that's exactly what the Russian military objects should look like. And, oh my God, what are you doing here? Jesus Christ. Okay, we will talk about this one later. Here on the screens, you can see Ukrainian drone, and the coolest thing about this one is that this is a Ukrainian land drone armed with a machine gun that was patrolling and holding Ukrainian position for more than a month, actually for I believe 1.5 months. This land drone alone, controlled by a Ukrainian operator, was holding Ukrainian position, and Russians couldn't take it for 1.5 months. And that is what I'm calling an asymmetric response. That is what I'm calling the outsmarting, all right, outsmarting the Russian invaders, because that is the future right there. We know that Skynet hates Russians, all right? Remember that amazing Russian idol, the Russian robots. Oh, fuck that shit. Fuck my life. Yeah, so this one is absolutely crazy. 3rd Armed Corps of the Ukrainian Armed Forces was using this drone to deflect Russian attacks for more than 1.5 months, and it's crazy. Look at that. They are shooting, they are bombing, they are throwing shit, they are trying to strike this position with their artillery, they are trying to strike it with their helicopters, they're bombing them and stuff like that. And this position is still under Ukrainian control, my friends. So, of course, robots don't care at all about bombs. And this position is still controlled by the Ukrainian armed forces, which is absolutely insane. And this is something, this is the warfare as I imagined it. Literally sitting, like having coffee with the joystick somewhere and turning Russian invaders into fertilizer. I see mentioning horses there in the chat. We will talk about this one as well because we have some footage of Russians on horses. Do I have this to show it to you, my friends? Yes, I have. Just a second, because again, it's absolutely crazy. But I also have something even funnier because here you can see Russians actually trying to attack Ukrainian positions on top of donkeys. I hate watching donkeys bombed by Ukrainian drones. I really do. But they are actually attacking Ukrainian positions on top of donkeys. All right, not even horses. They attack on horses, but they also attack on top of donkeys. And that is absolutely crazy because, yeah, that's the strike eliminating. Oh my God, it's so hard to watch. Poor animals, all right? Fuck Russians, but poor animals. They are using horses. Right now I'm trying to show you the video that I saved specifically for this purpose because, yes, there, for example, you can see one. That is Russians literally riding horses. Yeah, and it's really hard. I hate watching animals suffering like that. But what can we do? We are dealing with a terrorist organization the size of a country that is. I cannot say that they're worse than animals because animals are not bad, but they're definitely worse. So that one was absolutely horrifying. Su-30 and Su-27 in Lipetsk, in the Russian Lipetsk, Russian aircraft, 2 pieces were eliminated as well using the partisans. So Ukrainian main intelligence directorate shared footage of a Ukrainian partisan in Lipetsk doing something, like playing Microsoft Flight Simulator in real life. Like, check this out. He's like getting into the cockpit, pressing stuff. I would literally trade my liver, all right, or one of the kidneys, to be able to do that. Dude literally jumped into the cockpit, like, oh my God, look at those buttons. Holy shit. Wish he could at least, I don't know, dismantle the cockpit. Like, take some of those and bring them to me. That would be fantastic because the update for the Microsoft Flight Simulator was released recently, and I would love to play it, with some additional gadgets. But but it's kind of cool. So we can see this legendary dude literally burning those airplanes and happily GTFOing from that location, which is, I think, absolutely fantastic. That is something that deserves our admiration, my friends. That is something that deserves our like, I think. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, the Russian D general, blah blah blah. That's a photo of eliminated Russian D general during meeting with Vova Huilo. That's amazing. All right. What else do we have? We do have some footage. We have a footage of destroying a Russian mechanized column not far from Dobropolya by glorious and absolutely savage Azov guys. We can see that they are using drones to conduct observation, and basically a bunch of Russian armored vehicles becoming better. And that is something that actually impresses me big time. We can see, those big Russian tanks, those how the hell do they call it? Gramazeka? Gamaseka? I don't know. Those Russian barn tanks, yeah, being completely devastated. Yeah, you can see those on the footage. What amazes me, what impresses me, is that they still keep using those huge, slow, ineffective big vehicles, trying to develop their attacks, trying to take Ukrainian positions, and they will keep doing that over and over and over again. That is their tactics. They don't think like Ukrainians when, all right, it doesn't work here, let's see where it works, all right, let's see what we can do. They don't think like that. They think, okay, they died, send more. They died, send more. That is basically a Russian way of fighting the war. We know that. And it never changes. It was like that, it will be like that. The whole Russian military doctrine, and the more I think about it, the more logic it becomes. The whole Russian military doctrine is not based around a strong professional army. It's based around slow grinding, around throwing people into the meat assaults. And I read about this in so many books. Holy shit. We have a writer called Rubizh. All right, 1920s, when Bolsheviks invaded Ukraine. It was after Ukrainian and Polish armies combined hit Russians that tried to raise an uprising, a coup basically in Kiev. So it was after that. Russian Bolsheviks invaded Ukraine, and most of Ukraine is occupied and stuff, but there's still like this big nest of Ukrainian national resistance in the central Ukraine, in the place called Holodny Yar. And there are like Ukrainian Cossacks, it's 1920s. Ukrainian Cossacks, like real guys, a lot of guys that had a lot of fighting experience, actual combat experience, fighting against Russian Bolsheviks. Russians also involved Chinese volunteers. There were plenty of Chinese crazy-ass communists who came to help them, like North Koreans nowadays, basically. And already then, Rubizh, the dude who actually participated himself in those fights, the dude who was among those Cossacks, among the Ukrainian resistance, he talks about that. He says, like, Russians just throw meat. They don't necessarily have enough of equipment. They don't necessarily have proper equipment because their commanders literally don't give a shit. And they literally throw meat, and you only lose if you run out of ammo because they have more meat than you have ammo. And I was reading that back in the days already, like years ago, and I thought about it. Fuck, how can that be? And then you read about the Russia's invasion of Finland. Same shit. Guys, Finnish guys, please confirm. Same shit. They're talking about like masses of Russian meat literally thrown at your positions over and over and over again. It's like 1930s. And you're reading about this and you're like, well, yeah, you're not surprised anymore. And then you read about the World War II, the Russian so-called patriotic war, because for Russia, World War II doesn't exist. They don't want to acknowledge that in 1939 they were allies with Hitler. They want to acknowledge that Hitler invaded them in 1941. That's when the war started, you know, according to the Russian doctrine. So they are sending tons and tons of people into fight without any support, without any supplies, without weapons. One rifle for 10 people. You know, if the rifleman dies, you take his stuff and you go fight. You have 10 people, one rifle, and 5 shots. And that's it. And you read those stories, you read about this crazy human fucking, yeah, like you say, famous Ura human waves. Yeah, absolutely. And you read about that, and you read about the German machine gunners who actually had to visit a shrink after such attacks because they were going crazy after shooting hundreds of Soviet people trying to attack their positions to liberate the Ukrainian, the Russian cities. You read about that, and 80 years after that, 2025, 21st fucking century, where when Russia is considered, all right, like considered still by many as a space country, as a modern country building very, very cool robots, right? They're still sending their meat into assault and they don't give a shit. Their commanders just, they don't care. To them, both Ukrainians and their very own Russian soldiers, they don't matter, all right? They just don't give a fuck. And that is the way the Russians are fighting. And that is something impressive, but it makes sense. It makes sense to me because I can understand why. Because they understand that they have a very, very big supply of cannon fodder that they can just grind in those meat assaults. And basically, it doesn't matter if they have weapons, if they don't have weapons, if they shoot themselves, doesn't matter what they think, doesn't matter how they feel about it. Their wives, fuck their wives, just burn the passports or rights of those fallen Russian soldiers and don't pay them reparations. Tell them they're missing, all right, missing in action. This fucking federation is not even a country, all right? Like Mordor in Tolkien's books is more civilized than this shit. It's I don't know. Freaking ISIS, I think, is even more civilized than this shit. However, I can argue. I think they're worth each other, all right? To me, I don't give I don't see any difference between Russia and ISIS because to me they are completely fucking the same. Completely. They do the same shit. They kill people in the same way. They use terror. They target civilians. They kidnap, they raise kids as soldiers and suicide bombers. They are 100% the same. Putin's Russia and fucking terrorist ISIS. I put the equal sign between those two. Please tell me if I'm wrong, but that's the way I see it, all right? I'm not trying to be dramatic. It's just the way it is. The way they throw kids in the military camps, the way they hire Ukrainian teenagers to deliver bombs and blow them up and stuff. That's insane. Yet, you will find a lot of people wearing red hats rooting for Russia, saying, fuck, we can't be the best partners ever. Understand Russians. You should understand Russians. Nobody tried to talk with Russians. Russians can be beautiful people with amazing souls and stuff like that. Americans can learn so much from Russians. Of course, they can learn so much. They can learn how to kidnap children and train them as suicide bombers. But why would they, right? Why would Americans learn things like that? They can learn from Russians how to steal toilets. They can learn from Russians how to buy drones from Iran and hit Ukraine. They can do that. They can learn from Russians how to burn all of their tanks in a country that is comparably much smaller than Russia, much smaller in terms of territory and capacity, all right, industrial, military capacity, burn all of their tanks and their shells in that country and then send their soldiers on board of donkeys. America can learn that from Russia easily. I believe that if one day Trump decides to do that, Douglas McGregor is the best candidate to be just sent to Russia and acquire this golden and important military experience from the Russians, I believe. Do we talk about the fucking submarine? Oh my god. I still have some ice cream. All right. I still have some ice cream to finish. Sometimes I take ice cream, I just drop it in the microwave for like 10 seconds, no more, just 10 seconds. 11 seconds is too bad already. And let it melt. Because actually these days I have problems with my throat, if you noticed. And yeah, that is why I don't talk too much and also don't eat much cold things. But the Russian submarine, I believe there is like one very, very concerned American submariner. All right, who monitors such news. I believe that he's already writing like condolences, comments with condolences, you know, on different Russian websites regarding this one. But Russian Huilo class submarine was hit in Novorossiysk. On the base, it was hit by an undersea Ukrainian drone called Sub-Sea Baby. You won't find its pictures, at least I couldn't, on the internet because we don't know what it looks like. But apparently it's built on the same platform, maybe even platform as the Sea Baby. However, I don't really think that's the case because it's a subsea baby, right? It needs to have a different shape. But it attacked a Russian submarine docked in Novorossiysk. And after that, Russians made a lot of videos. Like, guys, the drone hit it in the back part of it, in the stern. All right, in the stern. So it hit it in the stern on the left side. And the Russians in their videos are showing the bow and the right side of boat, saying everything's fine, the boat is okay, everything's good. Plus, like, who knows, maybe it's a different boat anyways. So they already tried to debunk this one. Absolutely ridiculously, absolutely funny. And what we know about the drone, I made a specific video dedicated to it on UATV and Weapons of War. Please check it out if you haven't. I just, oh my god, to me it looks so cool. They have a military naval base, guarded, protected, patrolled. There are like barges, there are different things that make it absolutely impossible to pass inside this base, or either they're like mines, nets, whatever. And also they have a lot of different buoys and scanners that scan the environment to monitor the situation. And tiny Ukrainian drone bringing a fuckload of explosives is just, you know, slowly going towards its target and hits a Russian submarine. How fucking crazy is that? I believe that, like, Russians, if they really want to understand the situation, they need a lot of sedatives, all right? A lot of sedatives to actually read those news, because their heart might stop. So that is absolutely amazing. I really don't understand several things. First of all, how exactly was this drone controlled? Because if there is a way to transmit the signal, to radiate the signal, right? If there is something radiating the signal, there's a bunch of Russian ships that have a lot of equipment that is actually made to intercept such signals. Basically, Russian fleet is full of ships that are stuffed with such equipment, ships that can conduct electronic reconnaissance, and their whole purpose is to find, listen, scan for the signals and intercept those signals. So obviously there is a camera of some sort on this drone, and besides receiving signals that control this drone also most probably sends some kind of telemetry back to the center. So how exactly was it done? I have no idea without Russians intercepting this. But again, who knows? Sorry, I won't stop until I finish this one. When I was a kid, I would only eat the ice cream because I loved this one, the waffle cup. It's just so good, especially when it's like sweet and moist and sweet. Oh my god. The only facts session is starting. My question is why it was slightly off target. Literally, who knows? Like, look, it hit the submarine in around the stern, all right? Did it hit it straight or did it explode near the submarine? Either or, it doesn't matter because the damage was delivered 100%. Submarines are very, very tender things, all right? Despite the fact that they look big and stuff and scary, made of metal, they are very tender. There's a lot of very, very tender equipment on board. An explosion, especially explosion that involves hundreds of high explosives, like 50 meters away, works like a big hammer, specifically against the submarines, all right? And it crashes the mass of water into the submarine and delivers a lot of damage, a lot of punch. So it's much worse than, for example, with the ships. If it's a surface vessel, if the drone explodes somewhere like 50 meters away, like nobody cares. If it's 50 meters away from a submarine, it's a completely different thing because submarine is submerged and the water literally crashes around it with a very, very high force. So the damage was delivered. Why it was like slightly off, I don't really know. It arrived to the stern, so I can just assume that maybe if it was acoustically guided, all right, maybe that's exactly where the drone would hit. If it had passive acoustic guidance, maybe that is exactly the spot that produces much of the noise in the submarine, because we're talking about engines, we're talking diesel engines, generators, and electric engines. So maybe that's the reason. Where was the question? My friend, I'm sorry I missed it. I talked... about this stuff and I missed your comment. Oh my god. Yeah, who would have thought invading a country full of software engineers and actual engineers would be a good call? Absolutely. Aha, here it is. Why did the Russians sink 3 barges in the entrance of the dock after the fact, while still having a number of military ships still trapped in the dock? So the answer to this is, first of all, we are fighting against cunning but also dumb enemy, all right? The second reason is because they are trying to adapt. But because they're Russians, they're not trying to adapt to potential targets. They're only trying to adapt to the known targets, all right? What they have experience fighting against, they're trying to adapt against that. And that is why they sank 3 barges at the entrance. Newman also comments, a powerful underwater explosion can cause microfractures to the pressure hull even if the damage is not visible. When you dive that boat, the pressure will make it worse until it implodes. So first of all, it's the damage delivered to the pressure hull. There also damage delivered to the equipment. There is a lot of equipment that is attached. I'm sorry, I will keep eating. A lot of equipment attached to the walls, all right, to the body, to the outer frame from the inside. So when there is like a very, very big and strong punch, all that shit just can damage other shit, and like it gets detached from the wall and literally flies around. In the tanks, it's the same stuff. I talked to our tankers, and they actually say that some of the biggest dangers in the tank, for example, is when there is some kind of punch. It may not necessarily penetrate the tank and burn you inside, but there are so many things attached, hanging on the walls, all right, in the cockpit, in the tank itself. And if there is a punch strong enough, then the bolts may crack, and all that shit is flying around, literally mauling you, all right, literally killing everybody inside. So he says, like, look, you see this shit, and I'm sitting at the commander's, I think it was, yeah, I'm sitting at the commander's place, and there is this scope, all right, the aim. And he's like, this fuckery is only attached on big bolt, a single bolt, all right, over there. He says, imagine some shit hits the tank from here, and this aim that weighs like 60 kilos just drops on me, all right? So how cool is that? Same with the submarine, but of course we're not talking about tiny shells hitting submarine. We're talking about fucking, I don't know, 800 kilograms of high explosives producing this huge punch under the water, all right, and sending all that crashing into the submarine. So of course it delivers a lot of damage. That is why depth charges are so deadly and were so deadly back since the World War I would say. Do you think they are working on the hidden Cold War era submarine cave in Crimea again? I don't really think so, because that shit was turned into a museum. I've been there, by the way, and it's kind of cool, but it was turned into a museum. There's not much they can do, all right? It was impressive, though, by the way. After Russia collapses, we gotta definitely go there. Like, it's very, very much worth visiting. Happy Jesus' birthday. Oh my God. Why I never thought about it this way? Jesus' birthday. Which it is, obviously. From what I've seen, the propulsion is the weak point. Yeah, probably that's the thing. From what I know, basically, and I'm not expert in submarines, but from those, from the tiny knowledge that I have about it, is that if there is an passively acoustically guided torpedo, because there are actively guided torpedoes that emit the sound. They have a sonar installed on board. They emit the sound, and then they lock on the target using this sonar. Passive acoustic torpedoes with acoustic guidance, they are listening to the sound, all right? So if this drone had something like that, some equipment of that sort installed on board, which I have no idea, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But if it did, then apparently it was attracted to the sounds coming from the area on this of the submarine that contains the equipment that can produce much sound, like generators, and I believe that generators could work. Maybe not, maybe the submarine was supplied by electricity from the shore. I have no idea. And also, I believe that there could be quite a few other vessels, all right, that could also produce sounds, bigger ships, surface vessels. So we can just speculate, in fact. Hard to say. But it was good. I have an idea of how actually they managed to control the drone, making sure that it won't get noticed. I mean that the signal won't get intercepted. But I'm not really sure if I can talk about this here. But there are ways. There are ways. You don't necessarily have to do it from like half a world away. Eat my flesh and live eternally. I will eat ice cream. I won't live eternally, but I will live happily at least for a while after that. But again, if you believe in Jesus, I completely respect your point of view. If you don't, I completely respect your point of view. To me, Christmas is a holiday that allows us to just spend time with the loved ones. Not in my case this year, unfortunately, but the next year, 100%. Hello to the beautiful Canada! Oh my god, 1 in 4 million Ukrainian diaspora. It makes it like a lot of people, actually. From the geography courses at school, I learned that Canada is second largest country of the world with the least dense population in the world, which is extremely cool. Yes, my friend, savor the moment, absolutely. Ice cream was really good. It was almost as good as watching the burning car of the General Sarvarov of the terrorist federation. It was really nice. It added, to the feeling, to the spirit of celebration. Golden Age of the Titans, can we get back? I think Ukraine warriors are preparing the way. No idea. I will tell you if I meet any of the Titans. We'll see. We have elbow room. What is elbow room? Let me know. Oh my God, mom passed away this week. She was born in Odessa, 1944. My friend, please receive my condolences. I feel very, very sorry about that. May her soul rest in peace. And yeah, it's really hard when you celebrate this Christmas and probably understand that, this is the first one without her. I know how hard it feels. So I'm sorry, my friend. We celebrate some weird traditions here in Simru. The Mariel weed is amazing. A ghost horse goes door to door, proceeding to rap battle people in wells to let them inside to drink their drink. It's, oh my God, this is so cool. That is amazing. Elbow room is room to stretch out your elbows. I think like I think like I was playing off elbows up at a hockey phrase, but having room to work is commonly called elbow room. Yeah. All right, I got it. I think. Did the Kadyrovites find the Chechens yet? I think the Chechens are still looking for the Kadyrovites themselves. That's something that they were doing since 2022. I'm looking forward to see any updates on that, because yeah. We know that Kadyrov is only really good at, for example, like shooting in the at the traffic lights, all right, things like that, and then saying that, hey, we're fighting. Mothers are the best. Sorry for your loss. Yeah, I completely agree on that. We have condolences here in the chat. Dan, please accept them. If you think about it, Christianity is pretty brutal religion. Eat the flesh and drink the blood of your God. No wonder Christians were considered to be strange. I'm not mocking Christianity, all right? Because I know that there are believers there in the chat. But if you think about it from the other standpoint, like imagine, for example, all right, we have Vikings, Odin, God of war. We have like different people, different nations, for example, worshipping gods of war, all right? Like we are worshipping Mars, all right? Or we are worshipping, like, I don't know, Tezcatlipoca, something like that. And then you go and you say, guys, like, we don't give a shit. We even sacrificed our guy. Here, you see, we have it, like, on the flag. Like, that is savage. That would scare the shit out of me. Like, if I met somebody, like, I'm like, yeah, the spirit of my god of war is protected me. And the dude is like, dude, we don't care. We even killed our guy. That is crazy. That is like very demoralizing, I would say. But I try to understand the reason why Christianity became so widespread. And the more I think about it, the more I understand that it doesn't matter how peaceful your religion is. It doesn't matter how much it promotes love and respect and everything else. If people don't give a shit and people who promote it don't give a shit, all right? Because crusades, because take, I don't know, I believe, that Epstein was some of the biggest Christians in the world. He would promote fucking whatever. People like Epstein, people like Trump, again. There's a lot of conservatives that say, we are Christians. We believe in Jesus, all right? And then they also say, fuck those immigrants, kill those, I don't know, Muslims and stuff. If Jesus saw that, all right, he would say, guys, why are you so ridiculous? Are you nuts? That's not what I taught you. All right, I told you to respect, I told you to love, I told you to be kind to people. Jesus Christ, when he had a snack, when he had a dinner with other people, he would not sit with the best of the best. He would go straight to the prostitutes and murderers and thieves and teach them how to become better. That was his strategy, all right? And what we see, for example, among the people who pretend they're Christians, but at the same time they're obviously not, is that they're trying to self-isolate. They consider themselves a higher caste, and everyone else are like, just a mud. And it's wrong. It's wrong. Everything should be built on and based on respect. And if you don't respect other people, then whatever the fuck are you saying about Christianity, religion, freedoms, democracy, and everything else, it doesn't work if you don't respect other people, I think. Will I be streaming on a weekly basis? Yes, my friend, I will be streaming. I will return to streaming on a daily basis. I promise. This week was crazy. I was sick again. End of the year, a lot of work, and unfortunately, I couldn't do much. My car is giving up, all right. But I will be streaming on a daily basis because I miss you, my friends. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I miss you and I respect you, and there are so many things to talk about. I wouldn't even say respect, I'd say empathy. I believe that's the same. Respect and empathy, they're not possible without each other. Maybe they are. Maybe you know better. But returning to the topic, I will be streaming more every day, hopefully. And before we finish, there are several more updates. First of all, our fundraiser for Rubizh Brigade, for my very own brigade, had started. And finally, I would really like to announce it. Please check out the link in the description, because those are my guys. I promised them that I will help them to get a new car. Dima, you remember from my streams, the metalhead Dima. He will join me tomorrow for the stream as well, and we will talk about that a bit more. And before it happened, please check out the link in the description. It's very, very important. I want to keep supporting my guys, and if we can help them get a car, that would be at least, at least some very, very tiny contribution from us. I will be extremely happy about that. So another thing that I wanted to mention, let me just find this one real quick. Russian propaganda. Fuck Russian propaganda. Russians without fuel. Fuck them as well. This one is very important. This one comes from the Ukrainian Center for Countering Disinformation. So currently this center is observing a new Russian project that is called International Journalists Supporting Russia. That is used to create a network of loyal international journalists and bloggers. And this course is launched by the Russian resource called Ваши новости, Your News. That belongs to the sanctioned propagandist Zakhar Prilepin, Russian well-known fascist and Nazi, basically. So that is a new project that involves all sorts of international talking heads, all right, like Tucker Carlson, Tim Pool, and stuff like that. That talk shit about everybody else, about Ukraine, of course, and they go to Donbass, they visit beautiful Russia, they make reports about Russia and say basically that Russia is not a terrorist country. They can be your good friends because you can learn so many things about Russia. Russia is big, Russia is unbeatable, Russia is democratic, beautiful, what else? Rich. People are happy in Russia. Russia has so much fuel and never had a shortage of fuel. Russia is fighting in Ukraine, already basically crossing the border with Poland and stuff like that. And basically we will unfortunately see more of that. The only way to stop that is for Ukraine to keep striking the Russian oil industry, because if financing of such projects stops, they stop. They just fail, all right? That is how it works in the terrorist federation. So I have a hope that maybe not with the help of international government, like European governments, but with the help of Ukrainian Flamingo missiles and Neptunes and good Ukrainian drones, we will see that happening, that this tactic of using talking heads on the internet will fail. So Google Earth Street View on any Russian city reveals the ugliness. Oh my god. We're talking about cities. Google like Russian town of Kolyma. Seriously, whatever you find there is absolutely amazing. Just to prove that I am not joking. Oh my god. Kolyma. Just to prove that I am not joking, alright, I am searching for Kolyma. Kolyma, guys, it's on the shore. Alright, we talked about Kolyma, but I will just keep returning to it. It's on the shore. It's a place on the shore with access to the sea, full of fish, full of resources, full of trade. It's supposed to thrive, right? Not in Russia. Because that is literally Kolyma. Like, this shit is a very, very good symbol of Russia nowadays, alright? That is fucking Kolyma. Dear God, safe and secure Russia. Like, that is the essence of Russian spirit right there on the photo. Oh my God. I just love it. I love it so much, my friends. Yeah, beautiful Russian Kolyma with its mountains, with its resources, amazing Russian people. Its bridges are amazing too, and like I didn't Google anything else, my friend. Like there. Imagine Tucker Carlson going to some of those and going like, "Oh, Americans, we are so stupid. We can't understand the true purpose of life." That is life, my friends. That is where free American people can raise their kids in love and peace and democracy in the middle of the Russian Kolyma. They sell milk that costs like 5 cents a liter. How crazy is that? All right, if they have milk. Yeah, so, and places like that, there's thousands of them, all right? Across the entire Russian country, there's thousands of them. Literally, if you want to spend, waste a bunch of hours of your precious lives just Googling them, you will be impressed. Yeah, so Kolyma is like, I hope it becomes like a meme, because whole Russia is Kolyma. Kolyma is actually the Russian Gulag was in Kolyma, as far as I remember. Russian concentration camp, one among hundreds of Russian concentration camps for political prisoners. It was in Kolyma as well. So that is the portrait of Russia right there. Okay, we talked about important topics. We talked about Ukrainian peace plan. We talked about the terror Russian general getting improved. We talked about Russians riding horses, the Huilo-class submarine. We also talked about the Russians using the international journalists to promote the infection of the Russian world. What we missed is basically Epstein Gate. Yay! Let's talk about the Epstein Gate and wrap this episode, because what else can we talk about on Christmas, right? So, Jeffrey Epstein. Turns out he had much more deeper connection with Donald Trump Putin. I confuse Trump and Putin all the time in my videos, if you noticed. That is why I will be just saying Trump Putin. I mean, doesn't make big of a difference, right? So One of the coolest features of that collection, all right, there's several actually. One of the coolest features is that the Department of Justice employees that were most obviously hired by, the Elon Musk or whatever, or Trump's goons after the proper people were fired. So they were so good at actually masking, at redacting the text, that if you open a bunch of PDF files, like copy the redacted shit and then paste it in the text reader, actually you can read that. All right. And you can see, for example, mentions of, what was his name? Indike, the attorney that was, according to those reports, that was literally paying to the victims, threatening them, paying to them, paying also for their attorneys, and then later worked for Donald Trump, and now works for Hexet, all right? So when you look at those files and think, like, why did they redact so much? Maybe it's because they wanted to protect, like, witnesses, for example, things like that. And then when you copy-paste the text and read it in the editor, for example, like the real text, non-redacted, you can see that actually they did that to cover up people like that dude. What the fuck? Seriously? The dude who literally was paying money to the victims to keep them quiet and wasn't prosecuted or anything else. He continues working in the Trump team. I don't know. There's a lot of guys that I follow, for example, on YouTube. There's a lot of former convicts from the United States. And there's a lot of guys, Larry, very famous one, the bank robber, I think, the jewelry robber. They have a lot of beautiful stories. As a former cop, I enjoy and completely respect former convicts because they have amazing life experience, all right? And they have a lot of amazing stories to tell. How to survive in that system, because again, as a former cop, I don't really like that system for not being humane enough, okay? And I have complete respect to anyone. So I follow Larry. There's a bunch of others, and there are a bunch of something that I noticed during the elections in the United States was that they were all rooting for Trump very, very much. At the same time, again, because you know that people who mistreat minors, they don't survive in prison. They just don't. They also wear, for example, like red hats saying, make pedophiles afraid again, which I completely support, all right, legally. Please stay in the legal frames. I completely support that. I wonder how they feel now. Like like how do they feel about that? Because, for example, in the prison, it's not proper to even fucking sit behind the same table with somebody who committed something like that. It's completely improper. At the same time, Trump fucking flew his private jet. He was there. There's no evidence, direct evidence, that he was involved into something like that. Despite numerous claims that are found in those Epstein leaks. But he was his fucking best friend. Like, what do they think about that now? I would really like to hear their opinion. Maybe they would change the color of the hat, though. I don't know. We'll see. Honestly, it's not like I'm mocking somebody, just I honestly want to hear what they think. Yeah. Then that postcard that was sent by Epstein to Nasser, where he openly says, that our president likes young ladies. When I was reading that, first thing I thought, Why would he say that? All right. For example, if I wanted to seriously, I thought if I wanted to like blame him to weaponize, this story against him, that's exactly what I would do. Like I would forge something like that. I literally forge a postcard saying like that text. That text literally says, like, dear public, I'm kind of hinting that he's a pedophile, right? And I'm like, why? Why would he do that? And then I start researching and I realize that Epstein was actually involved into so many things. He was involved into CIA operations, like the most notorious molester in the United States history was involved into different operations on the state level, all right, using his connections. And most probably he thought that he will be saved by people he was friends with, including Donald Trump. And when Trump decided not to save him from the prison, most probably that is when he decided to leave a hint. Sounds like a conspiracy, I agree. But again, as a former cop, you're trying to understand like what could be the motive, all right, behind the actions that we're taking. So that is something that I can see, for example, and that is something that I completely agree with combat veteran reacts 100%. Looks absolutely legit to me. So the question is, will there be any consequence? Will we see anything changing in the nearest future? I don't know. Dear American friends, if you're watching this, please let me know, because I'm very interested to learn if anything will change. I give you 100%, all right, that exactly after this episode, in the comments, you will see a lot of angry phrases like, you're biting the hand that feeds you, all right? You're feeding the hand that bites you. You're biting the hand that feeds you. Don't say shit about Trump. Don't call him pedophile, because we will stop supporting Ukraine, even though technically we don't support Ukraine anymore, but we will stop supporting it completely, all right? We will keep not supporting it even more than we are doing now, which I completely don't give a shit about. It's your personal position, and this is my personal position. So that is another thing. Fucking crazy. I would tell what Ukrainians would do, for example, if this shit emerged, all right? But I don't want this to be considered as me sitting somewhere in a different country calling for different actions in the United States. Not my intent at all, my friends. American people know exactly what to do. I trust in them. And basically that's it. My friends, we are running towards the mark of 2 hours, all right? After the stream started, I think it will be a good idea to let you finally go and celebrate with your families, with your loved ones. And I will also celebrate, maybe, I don't know, flying in the Microsoft Flight Simulator, watching something, sleeping, eating. I will see. I have no idea. But it was a pleasure. One more time, my friends, I would like to please ask you to check out that link in the description, Car for Ukraine. It's a Christmas fundraiser for my brigade, Rubizh, and I really hope to help my guys, all right? Because you saw what Ukrainians are doing to Russia, and not the only, but one of the best ways to support them is to help them with vehicles, is to help them with all sorts of equipment that helps them perform their mission, all right? Evacuate guys, deliver things to the front line. So I will be extremely happy if you check out that link. Also, big shout out to Claire from Car for Ukraine for helping us with this fundraiser. She does amazing job, my friends. And what else? Next time, I think tomorrow we will be streaming with Dima, the legendary Dima. He's legendary in Ukraine. A lot of you already know him. And we will have a really, really nice discussion. Again, it will be 25th, it will be Christmas, and I hope it will be very, very fun. Big thanks to all the supporters, to all the moderators and members of my channel. Thank you so much for supporting my streams. I appreciate it big time. And in fact, you have absolutely... Oh my God, I just nearly broke my cup. In fact, you have no idea how much I appreciate your support. So, with that, I would like to raise my cup one more time. This coffee is so freaking cold already. To you, my friends, happy Merry Christmas, or how do you say? I have no idea. Merry Christmas to you and your loved ones. Cheers, and we'll see you next time. See you tomorrow. Please treat yourself with something good. As always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Leave a couple of words there in the commentaries. Let's roast the shit out of some ridiculous individuals. I absolutely love that. See you next time. Be safe and bye bye.